I would like to request Imam Fahim to get us started, please, with the opening prayer.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
We begin with the name of Allah, and we send salutations and blessings upon his beloved Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we will open with the beginning chapter of the Quran, Surah Al-Fatiha. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين.
Thank you so much. So today for New Jersey Muslim Voice for Progress, we have two presenters, Brother Jimmy Small and Brother Wesam. So just quick information, Brother Jimmy Small is a retired educator, a track coach, and a public servant. During his 30 years tenure with Newark Public School, he won accolades and awards as a science educator, coach for both robotics and debate teams. Brother Jimmy Small simultaneously worked for 31 years as a head track coach at Hillside High School, where several of his teams won awards, including prestigious Penn relays. Brother Jimmy Small was the first Muslim to be elected to East Orange City Council. He's currently the president of Muslim League of Voters, a non-profit organization dedicated to voter education and community involvement. Brother Wesam is a 15-year resident of New Jersey, community activist. He ran for Board of Education twice. He's a zoning board member, and he's a vice president of sales at Islamic Financing Company. At this time, I would like to turn it over to Brother Wesam to get us started, please.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Inshallah, we'll get started today on our presentation with our NJ MVP organization and Politics 101 to really do a general overview on why it's important for us to be involved as Muslims into politics and more specifically local politics. As Brother Jimmy Small always says, he says, all politics is local, right? And that is true because it all starts from the ground up. But we do want to go ahead and tell you what our vision is for this organization, so you know why we want you a part of this organization and how we can grow together and benefit as an ummah. Because if we do things together, we will see the benefits of it and such. But it's important to see what our vision is. And this organization is a grassroots organization that aims to really integrate Muslims into the social, political, and religious fabric of New Jersey. And it's very inclusive, so that we make sure that we cast our net out very wide so that we can bring in as many brothers and sisters as possible so that we can preserve the civil rights and liberties of all people, regardless of their affiliation and such. As Muslims, we know that we have to stand up for justice as well as to grow Islam at the same time. And so our mission after that is to really advocate for Muslims and New Jersey Muslims on a local and state level, because as we are residents in the local towns that we live in, our local officials will listen to us, because at the end of the day, they need our vote and they need our money in terms of donations. And so it is through our local involvement that the Muslims will be able to grow and make a difference in the community. And by doing so, we will engage each other in through individual engagements as well as or different organizations, whether it's Muslim organizations or social organizations. we at NJMVP want to cast that net out wide so that we once again bring as many people and organizations as possible in order to show the Muslim support and power in the state. And by doing so, we want to also be inclusive and encourage our sisters, our Muslim women and sisters, in order to participate. We are not an organization that feels that women should be at the wayside and such, but just the opposite. We see that our sisters have great leadership within them, and we want them to also participate in this and within the Muslim community growing as well. And by doing so, we also want to encourage diversity of all Muslims, regardless of where they're from, what country their parents are from, or they're from, or what religious sect they're from. At the end of the day, we want all Muslims to participate, as well as to volunteer in this cause, so that we can all grow together. And more specifically, why this particular organization, right? There are many different organizations out there that are doing great works within the community, right? It is not just NJMVP. However, our organization is a bit different in terms of it is nonpartisan, meaning that it doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican, right? I know that our community nowadays leads more towards one side of the party than the other, but we do have Muslims on both sides of the party and aisle, and we want to be inclusive because our voices should be one as Muslims. And although it is one, it is a loose coalition of different organizations and individuals with different mindsets that will make us grow together and strengthen the community's voice, right? So we don't endorse any one particular party or candidate because if we are nonpartisan, we are able to function in a greater capacity. For example, if we want to have different voter registration drives, we may approach the masjid and ask the masjid to allow us to do presentations and such. And the masjid should be able to allow us to do so because we are not bringing a specific party to endorse, right? The minute the masjid becomes partisan and they are a non-for-profit organization, then there becomes some legal complexities and such. But because we are non-partisan and we're not pushing a particular candidate, we are able to grow the Muslim voice, voter voice and such by being non-partisan. And besides growing the voter registration of the Muslim, obviously that translates to more Muslim voting on election day, on the vast variety of different elections. Currently, it's the primaries coming up. Then the general election, as we all know, is in November. And then anything else that is a special election that comes up at times. Sometimes it could be a position that has been left due to a vacancy, whether it's a special board election and so on. We Muslims will have the numbers if we simply participate and make it a priority. Unfortunately, a lot of us, we like to sit back and complain on our couches, but not really put any effort, right? The Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, really, when he was asked by one of the Sahabas, he said, shall I leave my camel here and go into the masjid? And the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, well, tie your camel first, right? And then leave it up to Allah to keep it there for you. But first we have to do our job as Muslims and not just complain sitting down. We have to be proactive, be involved, and then we can make sure that we've done our best, and Allah will make the way for us. But He won't change the condition of a people if we don't do our part as well. And at the end of the day, this is an umbrella that is a general umbrella to bring all Muslims involved, minorities and not. So because as Muslims, we're all one. As we all know, each Muslim is a brick to each other that makes each other one solid foundation together, inshallah. And so by going over these, our goals and vision, we've done already some of the groundwork in different parts of the state. And I'd like to have Brother Jimmy Smalls talk about these different numbers and statistics and success that we have had so far, because Brother Jimmy Smalls has been at this organization from the very beginning. I've just been with this organization for about a year now or so, but Brother Jimmy has really been a trailblazer in bringing all of this to light with great success in New Jersey. And we'd like to continue this journey in South Jersey as well. So Brother Jimmy, inshallah, if you can let us know some of the success of this organization through your help.
Assalamu alaikum. The NJMVP started out as a brainstorming session at the end of 2014. Then it became more concrete by having 5 organizations of various backgrounds come together. The Muslim League of Voters, New Africa, American Muslims for Democracy, PACC, and CARE New Jersey. The one thing we all had in common was to make sure that Muslims can gain some political power. Now we are over 150 organizations. One of the things that we always try to do is to make sure we believe in the term unity without uniformity. We don't want anyone to change what they do, change their background, but just come with the one goal, and that is to make progress for Muslims. Now, we have gone from about less than 15, in this short time, less than 15% of Muslims voting to over 45% of Muslims voting. We've had over 200 meetings. We have a database of around 5,000 email addresses, and it's growing. Now, we had 2 great accomplishments at the end of 2018, 2019. We had the Muslim Day of Advocacy, where we went to Trenton. We met with as many assembly people and state senators as we could, and we voiced some of our concerns to them directly. They were very, very pleased to see us come there. And it wasn't even a partisan thing. We spoke to both Republican and Democrats. If you go to them and you talk to them, they're more apt to listen. As I stated earlier, we are trying to also connect with as many Muslim organizations as possible. That includes Masajids, and we are collaborating with like-minded organizations. Like-minded being those people that want to work towards the good of Muslims. And some of our objectives are to give you the tools and the means to be involved in politics. Connect you to and the more of us that are involved in politics, the more of us that we can connect to resources. Let's say, if you are like myself, I'm president of the library board in East Orange, and there are other Muslims that are on library boards. But let's find out, let's say someone is doing something in Old Bridge, and I'm doing something in East Orange. Let's collaborate and see how we can do it together or do it differently. And that's just at that level. Same thing with boards of education, same things with zoning boards and planning boards. We'll talk more about what those are. And the same things with city councils, etc. But one thing you must do is get yourself organized. By being organized, you can get the things done you want. Your thoughts and actions should be similar. They don't have to be the same, but they should be similar, which means you can create some short-term goals. As a result, you can have some long-term goals. And what has also happened in this time span, since we have gone from 15% participation to 45% participation, there are a lot more Muslims that are now either appointed or elected around the state. What's in it for me? The ability to work together. We all must work together. One of the things I was told when I first got involved with politics 40 years ago as a Muslim is that we have to be bipartisan, because it depends. In some communities, you're mostly Republican. In New Jersey, I dare say most communities are Democrat. For the record, I'm a Democrat, but I'm not going to speak from that frame of reference today. But there may be some legislation that comes up where it's going to be to the benefit of everyone. As for instance, a lot of people don't know, when we had Republican Governor Christine Todd Whitman, she was the first one to put together a halal food law. And a lot of people at that time, I had to say, the Republicans were more apt to be supportive of Muslims than Democrats, but it sometimes switches. If we are unified, we show a lot of strength. And no interest in reinventing the wheel, that's a concern I personally have right now. There are a lot of people running for office that seem as though they want to reinvent the wheel. It might be to your benefit to work within the two parties. Oh. The coalition will operate collaboratively to address common issues with success and resolution. I'm gonna let Brother Wesam finish this slide.
Oh, brother Jimmy, Jazakallah khair. I mean, also while I continue this slide where it says what's in it for me, it's important to really understand that as a community, at the end of the day, it's not what's in it for me, right? I mean, the goal of us Muslims is for all of us to grow together, right? And we each have a different role in life, right? Some of us are leaders in our communities, others are supporters in the community and such. But at the end of the day, our goal is for all of us to benefit, and we have to not just be at the table, right? There's a saying that you have to be at the table, right? And I like to go a step before that and say, hey, you should be at the decision-making menu table, right? Because when the menu is drawn up and you are given a choice between steak, pizza, or potatoes, you might say, hey, I don't want any one of these three items, right? But it's too late because you aren't at the decision, you aren't at the table that actually drew up the menu. You have to be at that table to draw up the menu. And if you're not going to be at that table, you need to have the eyes and ears of those who are, so that they can put forth items that you do want on the menu to choose from, right? And that is why it's important for all of us to be involved. And that's what's in it for each of us individually, is for all of us to benefit and to have our voices hold and we voices heard and our knowledge grown and strengthened as well. Now, the different types of involvement, this is very important, right? Because not all of us are going to be the highest position, and we don't need to be always the president of this organization or that organization. There is things that we can all do very minor, whether it's following up and sharing a post, whether it's sharing a text message, whether it's calling a friend, whether it's volunteering at the local organization and doing phone banking and calling. It could be volunteering at a campaign, right? Putting up signs, doing door-to-door knocking, showing up at different organizations, monthly events, right? If there's a Democratic organization or Republican organization, they usually have monthly meetings and such. And so just showing up there so that they see that you are part of the community and that Muslims care, right? They don't really listen to you if you only show up when there's a problem, right? They want to see us when things are good and when things are bad, because we're part of the community all the time. We're not just part of the community, you know, when there's an issue, right? And there's times where we can volunteer, and for those in high school or college, there's sometimes credits that you can get. And then there's also internships at the local offices, whether it's the mayor or state senate or assemblyman and so on. There's many different positions that that can be volunteered amongst our youth, paid and unpaid internships. And for us older folks as well, that we can also volunteer. I mean, I've seen elderly people in their 70s volunteer and 80s. So, and people younger can volunteer as well. And if you want to get into the field from a career perspective, you know, for those in college or looking for a career, there's certainly degrees for that. But, you know, keep in mind, the tide is turning, and those who are now the new wave of quote unquote politicians don't have degrees in politics, right? Some of the trailblazers that are out there making waves were bartenders before, or, you know, were teachers and had no political aspirations, but had a drive to make things different and such. So, you know, keep that in mind, that, you know, our involvement is in many levels. and it's not just the top position. It could be in a supportive role as well, and then grow within there as well. And some of the challenges we have growing within these different positions is, we come from, alhamdulillah, which is a blessing, is our different diverse groups that we are from, whether it's cultural or religious beliefs. That is a blessing, but also some of us do not know how to put that aside for a moment in terms of some of these beauties, but we make them, a hard sticking point and not see past different things. And that really goes with our cultural as well, and generational gap. The older generation has a different mindset from the younger generation on how things are done. And the older generation has a more methodical way of doing things, a systematic way, where the younger generation, the millennials, are trying to do things differently and such. And with that, we're trying to get the women involved, the youth involved, to show that we can all benefit when we all put our heads together and come up with creative ideas and be involved as well. Because lack of motivation is really the key to all success, right? Lack of motivation in our deen. How do we grow? How do we, some of us have the problem that we're still reciting the same Quran, the same surahs in the Quran for the past 30, 40, 50 years. There's no motivation to learn, right? The same thing. There's no motivation for us to get involved in our communities. So we need to change that by changing our mindset that we are going to make a difference, but it starts with the here and now and such. And our numbers show that. I mean, our numbers are great. And Brother Jimmy Smalls is going to tell us about our numbers, how we've changed, and how much further we can go, inshallah.
Okay, assalamu alaikum. It is not quite known exactly how many Muslims are in New Jersey, but it's estimated to be around 300 to 500,000. And as I stated earlier, we have 15%, less than 15% of us voted in 14, around 25% of us voted in 16. In the most recent elections in 17, 18, and 19, about 45% of us voted. The target is to get 75%. The target needs to be 100, but if we can get 75% out, we can get a lot more people elected. And once you're elected, you can be, for instance, you can become a mayor. And in my time, we have a Muslim mayor that worked his way up the ladder. And American citizens, as American citizens, you are obligated to pay taxes. No one questions your background then when it comes time to pay, but what is taxed is based upon who is in office, because certain tax bases, I'll answer questions here. There's individual results. If you work individually, great. I think Brother Wesam gave you some examples of what you can do. You can work your way up the ladder, become a Board of Education member, hold other appointed offices, and we're going to talk about that momentarily. Run for elected offices in your city and your county. All right, the current view, the vast majority of Muslims believe in the voting process and do so at election time. I sometimes remind those that don't. The Prophet told us you can change things with your hands. So what's the problem with writing something, punching something, or pushing something? If this is a great way to change something with your hand. There are some traditionalists that believe in involvement with politics is wrong or haram, but I don't believe that. Non-involvement often puts you in the same vein as those who you often call wrongdoers or kuffar, because you are allowing them to continue to return to office and block halal food laws, masjid constructions, no Muslim holidays on the school calendar, etc., etc. Why vote? Simply to do things to benefit your community. Muslims and otherwise, we will work for the good. You will work for the good of the people. Not voting is yours. Again, the wrong people can get elected. A lot of people, as for instance, are not happy who is the federal leader. So if people are not happy about us, they need to make sure they do whatever is necessary to get the person out. Voting is your right when you turn 18. However, if you are 17 and are going to be 18 by the election, you can vote. Elections are held several times a year. And there are various types. School board elections. It's not very. Those are usually held now in most towns at the end of the year when other elections are held. Municipal elections, meaning district leaders. Now, some of you that were on earlier, you heard me talking about I'm trying to get some information out to my district leaders because I'm the ward chair. I need them to do it like Brother Wesam was talking, make some phone calls. You also have the city council. You might want to run for that. You have the mayor, county offices are freeholders, county executive, state offices are state assembly, state senate, and the governor. Federal offices are Congress, U.S. Senate, and the president. Now, this is what is important. I've not seen enough of this today. You need to be able to make a coalition with people. That means you got to come, and it says here, work with people of all backgrounds, Muslims and non-Muslims. Politics is the art of compromise. It will take more than just Muslims to get what you need or what you want. Now, you may have to work with people that are completely different from some of your beliefs, but you might want to work on an issue. At the federal level, the USA, the United States has the president, 100 senators, and 435 representatives. Now, let me diverge from this for a minute. We are in the midst of doing the census. New Jersey lost a congressional seat in the last election. Let's make sure in your community you urge people to continue to do the census. I'm old enough to remember when there were 15 congressional seats in New Jersey. Now we're down to 12. So we have to continue to make sure that we continue to complete the census and get people out here to do it. However, whatever means necessary. As you can see, there's 12 congressional seats. The map shows where they are. State level, 1 governor, 40 state senators, 80 state assembly people, each. Okay. Each of New Jersey's 40 legislative districts is represented by 1 New Jersey senator and two assembly members. And there's a map of the various legislative districts. Okay. All right, some of this is repetitive. You need to be able to build a relationship with representatives. If you get to know who your state senators are and get to know who your state assembly are, it can get to the point where you're calling them by their first name and you can call them and they'll get a lot of things done. That is how we were also able to get space in the state capitol for the Muslim Days of Advocacy by us simply knowing who some of the people are. Work with them, volunteer for them, help campaign for them, present an event for them, such as a town hall event, invite them to meet with members of the community, invite them to your masjid and other important events. Okay, now this is something that you want to click on or write this down. It will take you to where you can find the people that represent you. Now, this is important. This is where, as I stated earlier, I'm concerned about a lot of people today not wanting to do this. If you get the right mayor and council in, these are boards or commissions. It says Advisory Health Commission, Arts Commission, Boards of and these vary from town to town. Commission on Aging, Construction Board. Brother Wesam, I think you said you were on the zoning board, if I'm not mistaken, which is one of the most important boards or commissions in a town. They decide what can be built, and the planning board decides how it can be built.
And you know, guys, just to chime in again real quick, it's important to a small phone call goes a long way. You know, I was speaking with one of the council members today, just a little earlier, just to say hello, and he was like, "Hey, Wesam, you know, which boards do you want to be on? I can try to get you in and such to contribute." All it was is a call to say, "Hey, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. If I could be of any help, let me know." And so, guys, just a small, like they say, out of sight, out of mind. It's important just to touch base with the local officials to show them that you care and that we're part of the community, Brother Jimmy.
Yes, sir. Now, how to join a political party? Find out who's the city's party leader. Most cities have a Democrat and Republican party chair. Most, not all, because we don't have a Republican chair in my town. Find out when and where they meet. Mostly they meet on a monthly basis. Show up at the meeting and express your willingness to join the party as a committee person. Committee meaning a district leader. And what they will probably want you to do is run for that. And as a district leader, this is a fair thing. You must have a male and a female each. Volunteer your time for a cause or passion dear to your heart. This is totally necessary to get people involved. Zayaz wants us to finish. Brother Wesam, you can finish this slide.
Well, I mean, basically, what we're looking to do with this organization, your help, is to join our organization and to spread the awareness locally to get people involved. We would like to do voter registration drives in your community, whether it's a masjid or not, and also to bring awareness of the census for it to be completed. I'm not sure if there's still jobs available for that, Brother Jimmy, with regards to the census, but for us to make sure that we have our representation there as well, and to work with our local legislators. So that's the immediate needs of this organization, and we're looking for all of us to stay a part of it. We do have local speakers right now that we'd like to bring on board to tell us their journey of why they got involved and some changes that they're doing so that they can inspire us to continue moving forward.
Okay, just to answer what you just asked, there may be some census jobs because a lot of people that wanted to be a part of that no longer want to do that because of Corona. Okay, Sister Sameera, you can take it from here. Thank you for listening. We will answer questions.
Okay, I believe Sister Sameera is still not on, so we'd like to bring up Janjua Pasha to talk about it, see what she's doing in South Jersey and how she's leading the youth. So please go ahead, Janjua Pasha.
To everybody. So for me, it all started in high school when I started volunteering as a camp counselor during my summers at my local masjid. And it was during that time that I discovered my passion for working with the youth. And from there, I went on to lead 2 Muslim youth groups and create opportunities for them recreationally as well as service opportunities. I think nowadays, at least in the South Jersey area, there aren't as many opportunities for the youth to get involved with their community, and at least like with other Muslims, there's not. And I think it's very important for them to develop these bonds with other Muslims in this like secular society that makes it so hard for us to practice our religion comfortably. And over time, because of this, our youth begin to stray farther and farther from the deen. And as our beloved Prophet ﷺ once said that a man is on the religion of his best friend, so let one of you look at whom he befriends. And I think that by creating more opportunities for the Muslim youth to engage with each other and interact both recreationally as well as with service opportunities, we can help strengthen their iman and keep them on the deen and also just better them as a person. So that's kind of why I do what I do.
Thank you so much, Janjua. So let me give the floor to Sana Farhat.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. My name is Sanat, and same as Janjua, I started in high school where I also volunteered as a camp counselor at my local masjid, and that's where I've also learned my passion to help with the youth and try to bring them together. So one of the ways that I've been trying to get the youth together is I established a summer camp at my local masjid. And from there, I've been doing it for the past 3 years. We've been able to like bring in kids together from ages 6 and up, where the kids are able to come together and learn about the deen, as well as like become friends with Muslims, because it's like kind of hard when you go to like public schools where it's just like there isn't as many Muslims in your school as there would be outside. So it's a great way for people to come together and just learn about their deen and people around them and their culture. So that's what I do in my community. And inshallah, hopefully I'll be able to bring in more events to the youth.
Thank you so much. We have some politicians and activists on from South Jersey. So let me give the floor to Fozia Janjua.
Thank you so much, Brother Jazz. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So I've learned over the years that what makes us human makes us equipped to lead and to serve. I've always had a passion for service and social justice. I volunteered, worked with, and advocated for the marginalized members of my community for as long as I can remember. I work with the homeless, the elderly, inner city kids, abused animals, and I've even taught prisoners at San Quentin State Prison. One can say that I've done it all. I protested at rallies and have phone banked for numerous organizations. In fact, when I was admitted to the University of California at Berkeley, a school known for its social justice, the first thing my dad said to me was, just don't get arrested. Log kya kahenge? What will people say? Recently, I attended 2 Black Lives Matter rallies in and around my town because inclusivity and unity are 2 key factors that I stand for. In 2016, after the much divisive presidential election, I co-founded a local nonprofit called Community SJP. Our goal is to unite communities through service. In times of adversity, it is our priority to maintain unity because unity brings strength. I'm a first-generation Pakistani American and was fortunate enough to be born and raised in one of the most inclusive cities in the world, San Francisco, California, by 2 very progressive and socially conscious parents who instilled the values of education, hard work, and especially giving back. I remember in elementary school, I was doing a report on Dr. Martin Luther King. My dad came into the room, and like most South Asian parents of his generation, he's a man of very few words and even fewer emotions. He said to me, you know, that man is the reason why I am in this country. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here. If you're South Asian and you immigrated to the United States after 1965, you owe that to the civil rights movement. This fact is often lost upon our community, but it's something my dad knew coming into this country over 45 years ago. In these past 4 years, as a Muslim and a South Asian and a female and a mother, I've been disheartened by the politics of our country. Our Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whomever among you sees wrong, let him change it by his hand. And if he cannot, then let him change it by his tongue. And if he cannot, then let him oppose it in his heart, although that is the weakest level of faith. Government is a place where we can make people's lives better, and politics shape everything. However, sometimes the system does not always work. I'm running for Mount Laurel Council because I want to be a part of the solution. In local government, change begins and affects us directly. This is where we can make the most difference and have the strongest impact. I want to bring a more inclusive, transparent, environmentally friendly, and empathy-based government, especially during these trying times. The pandemic has had an effect on everyone. We are all living a new normal, and now more than ever, we need the support of our government. My faith and my past experiences allows me to see people's humanity even when I disagree with their perspective. I am a uniter, a bridge builder, a doer, and a compassionate leader. As a mother, I hope to lead by example and help pave the way for our future generation to engage in our democracy, because it is our civic duty. And the values of freedom, justice, and equality for all are worth fighting for. Please support me in this endeavor by offering your hands and voting and writing those campaign donations, and also using your tongue to get the vote out and making dua, because ultimately our purpose is to do the right thing and to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak and for doing all the great work that you guys are doing.
Thank you, Sister Fozia. Let me give the floor to Sister Ayani Anjum.
Assalamu alaikum. As the brother introduced, my name is Annie Anjum. Brother, is it possible for you to minimize my introductory screen so that the audience can have my talking face expanded? If you could do that, I'd appreciate it. Regardless, thank you to the Muslim Voters Project for giving me an opportunity to speak. As you saw, I am an elected member of the Cherry Hill Democratic Committee. I'm a mom, I'm an attorney. That's basically my intro right there. I wanted to speak today, reaching out to more of the younger crowd, the young adults in the Muslim community, in any community, to be honest with you. I wanted to say that I hear you. I think many young adults here, especially in our Muslim community, in any community of immigrants, I think we have a real big issue about being recognized as Americans. I think our first, if some of the older movers and shakers and parents and influencers realize that we identify ourselves as Muslims first and Americans, then it all becomes much more, much easier and much more relatable to be able to recognize why it's important to vote. That being said, the second thing I want to say is power in numbers. Those are just small words, but they really make a difference only when you realize what's going on. 44% of Muslims in America are between the ages of 18 and 29. And then that's the most number of age group of Muslims in America, between the 44% between the ages of 18 and 29. I just want that to sink in. And then 37% are between the ages of 30 and 49. 13% are between the ages of 50 and 64. 5% are above 65. Even the attendees in this call, I'm going to take a leap and guess, are in the 37% between the ages of 30, 49, and maybe in the 13% who are a little older. I say this because even growing up in America as a Muslim, I really was not involved in politics. My parents, although they encouraged everything for me to go out, do whatever I want, but success was measured in making money, having a good job, having a good life partner. It was never voting, and civil engagement was never a part of our dynamic. And I really want to change that in my family. I got involved in politics as a very selfish thing. I wasn't happy with the way school district was working out, or the way changes in our school were not happening. So I hear that I realize that correlation and coming together as a community is important, but I also recognize that sometimes it's a selfish thing, but let that selfishness drive you into the community. I think young adults, it's very, very important to talk to your kids, but maybe even more important, talk to your parents and grandparents and uncles and aunties and neighbors about why it's important to vote. If they're citizens and they're eligible to vote, I think regardless of what part of the aisle you stand on, whether you're blue or red, but vote, because that's the only voice you have. The second thing I want to say is, or the third, moving along, losing count of where I am. I think if we realize, I hear so many complaints, whether it's from friends or coworkers, and I'm not talking about just the Muslim community, I'm talking about in general. Oh, our schools are so dilapidated in South Jersey, they're old, we're getting charged taxes and we don't see where it's going, or we're not happy with our elected officials. I hear the complaints, but I just don't hear the solution. And I just want the young adults to make known to everybody, even themselves, that the only way to make that change is through voting. Voting is our voice. And we have such a big turnout for voting in the presidential elections, but which is very important, not to undermine that, but it's more important to start at our local elections. Local legislation changes what affects you directly. I vote who I want in the school board, and then I can have a voice in what goes on in my child's school, whether my neighborhood is going to have a nice sidewalk or not, whether the potholes after the snowstorms are going to be filled. The presidential election is important, but it doesn't get to put up the sign of, child at play on my street. And those are the things that matter. And I think if once you get involved at the grassroots level, it just goes up from there. So there's many people who could be in attendance, or we know, especially as immigrant communities, who may not be eligible to vote. And I want to emphasize that there's so much you can still do. Driving somebody to a voting booth, telling them about the bios of those who are running for office. You have an influence. You can influence your friends about who's cool, who's not. You can influence them about your preference in politics. You can listen to the news. So many, and I say this about my family and my parents specifically, who are watching and probably mad at me for saying this, but watch the news. Watch the news. Know what's going on, and then know the things that affect you and why it's important to change them. And the only way to change is through voting. I'm gonna end with two thoughts. One is local legislation plus voting equals change. Local legislation plus voting equals change. Local legislation plus voting equals change. And then just imagine your neck underneath the knee. And that's it. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much again.
Thank you so much, sister. So let me give the floor to Sister Farhat Bivji.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani liyafqahu qawli. I'm going to talk about today influences outside the political office sphere. I have been serving my community in Cherry Hill for the last 25 plus years without ever having held political office. I was vice chair of my zoning board. I was on my Camden County Planning Board for several years. And as Brother Wesam said, these are very, very important positions. But my biggest influence within my community has come through my interfaith activities. And this is something that we have not discussed at length today. The reason interfaith activities are important is because there is an already established base of political influence. There is a sphere of political influence that is exercised by non-Muslim religious communities because they have had a longer opportunity to be on the playing field. We haven't. It is important for us to form coalitions with the non-Muslim religious communities. And over the years, I have seen the Muslim community has presented resistance to this because of politics and because of international politics. What we have to keep in mind is that our first advocacy is for Muslim Americans, Muslims in America. What benefits the Muslim community in America? Let us not get involved, let us not get tangled up in international politics, and let us not let international politics keep us from forming the coalitions that will help Muslims within America. A case in point, several years ago, the Voorhees community in South Jersey had wanted to build a masjid. And there was so much opposition from local neighbors who were billing it a terrorist organization, a nest for future terrorists, et cetera, et cetera. It was the interfaith community that coalesced behind the Muslims that was a strong influence on the zoning board and allowed the masjid to be built. Much later, once the Muslim community had established itself, and I would pay tribute to my late brother in Islam, Zia Rahman, may Allah bless him and grant him a good reward, an exceptional Muslim and an exceptional Muslim representative. He started building the coalition with the rabbis, with the Catholic Church, with the Jewish organizations, with the other organizations in town. And we have, for the last several years, we have an organization called the Jewish Christian Muslim Dialogue of South Jersey. And this is a coalition of people from the Christian, Jewish, and Muslim communities. And we dialogue and we talk about what is important to our communities and to build bridges and to remove differences where we can. And to understand that where the differences are, to respect each other's points of view. Because of these coalitions, we have been able to advance the image of the Muslim community in South Jersey. The Muslim community has gained a presence, there is a recognition, and it would not be possible, or it would have been very difficult without the help of the non-Muslim communities. The other thing is, serving on the boards that have been shown, these are important boards to serve on. This is civic, not political. When you serve on a board, serve it with the intention of helping the greater community without any self-serving interests. When I say that, I mean, if you are on a zoning board, I was on the zoning board, planning board, as I said, be sure you attend every meeting. Be sure you do your homework on the agenda items that are going to come before you so that you become necessary to your community, so that your community needs you. When I talk about community, I'm talking about the greater community, so that the greater community needs you more than you need them. And always remember, regardless of your religious practicing, or you're within the Muslim religion, regardless of your beliefs, always remember you represent Muslims. And I would like to say that when you talk about representing Muslims, let us make a little separation from Islam to the Muslim identity, because it is very important for us to have a unified, as Brother Jimmy Small said, unity without uniformity. It is very important for us to have a unified Muslim identity, regardless of which branch of Islam we may follow. So be very, very sincere in whatever position you serve on, and make an opportunity to interface with your political community. Make an opportunity to interface with your political leaders, and always try to bring the strength of your Muslim community behind you. Let your political leaders know that there is a Muslim community, a strong Muslim community that is there and that can get behind them. Always remember, the politician is not trying to look, and with all due respect to all those who are running for political office, the politician is not trying to look for what they can do for you. They are trying to look for what you can do for them. Show them what you can do for them, and you will be able to get what you need for the Muslim community. Jazakallah khair to everybody who is working, and may Allah continue to guide us and help us. Amen.
Now let me turn this over to Sister Maheen Durrani.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Maheen Durrani. I'm an elected Cherry Hill Democratic Committee woman. I want to thank everyone who helped organize this great community event. I did my master's in economics in my historic hometown city, Multan. Politics has always been in my family. My grandfather was the mayor of Multan. My father was an attorney, an activist, an author, and a historian. My mother championed the cause of philanthropy as a member of the ladies' club of that time. Since my childhood, I had seen my parents working for the community, and I always participated. My education, my family background instilled in me a sense of strong work ethic and giving back to the community. More than 20 years ago, I left my family and friends behind and moved to America with my husband. It was a complete shift of language, culture, and lifestyle in the beginning for me. Even though I struggled, I was able to adjust with the help of my newly found friends and community. When my children were younger, I was always volunteering my time at my children's school. I was an active member in the PTA. Though I did have to work harder than others just to be included in the events, I never gave up. In 2009, my husband and I were introduced to the local political community, and since then we have been involved in election campaigns and hosted some fundraisers for Democratic candidates. I have participated in other local community service like volunteering at food pantries and other charity organizations. I have also helped successfully run my husband's campaign, which elected him to become a secretary of all Pakistani physicians of North American descent, also known as APNA, which represent over 18,000 physicians. I want to be the voice of all women in our community. I would like to quote Malala Yousafzai. I raise up my voice, not so I can shout, but so that those without a voice can be heard. We cannot succeed when half of us are held back. My religion teaches me to be a positive and a proactive member of society by promoting justice and equality to all. This is why it inspires me to involve in politics at all levels, because that is where decisions are made which impact our lives and our children's lives, not only now, but the times to come. And we want to be heard. And what is not a better way to be heard than being a part of the process? My advice to Muslim women is that we need to participate and get involved. It might not be easy at first, but persistence and keeping your head up will lead to a change. And this is why every vote counts, and I want everyone to go and vote. And I thank all of you for listening.
Thank you so much. Before I turn it over to Sister Sameera for question answers and any final comments, I would like to thank Sister Muna, Brother Qasim, Sister Muqaddas, and Sister Saima for helping us to organize this. Would anyone, any four of you like to say something before we turn it over to Sister Sameera for question, answer, and closing?
Yeah, I wanna say something, Brother Ayaz. Thank you so much. I just wanna thank NJMVP for giving South Jersey the platform to inform them the importance of getting involved in politics. And I would like to thank all the South Jersey participants who are here, who joined, and all the speakers, and Brother Ayaz and you. And so, Jazakallah khair for all the hard work. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
This is Saima Butta. I just would like to thank everybody for participating. People from South Jersey, our family and friends who joined this webinar today. Thank you so much that you time your busy schedules. And thank you for the participants again. And thank you, NJMVP, for giving this platform to the South Jerseyans. And looking forward to work with you in future.
Great. Brother Qasim, Sister Muqaddas. Okay, let me turn it over to Sister, sorry.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Muqaddar. Sorry, there is a noise behind here. I just want to thank you, Brother Ayaz, for organizing. And thank you so much. And very inspiring talk by all the speakers. Very proud of my sisters.
All right, thank you. Let me turn it over to Sister, Brother Qasim, are you there? Brother Qasim? Okay, let me turn it over to Sister Sameera. Sister Sameera, please take over.
Assalamu alaikum. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim wa min sharri anfusina. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. First of all, thank you everyone for your patience this lovely afternoon. However, we know that we all believe we plan, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best of all planners. So it went accordingly to just the way He wanted it. So with that said, if there are anyone that would like to display any questions, could you please post your questions now? And until you get those questions posted, I'm sure a lot of participants want to know, how can we be a part of the New Jersey Muslims Voice for Progress? So what you can do is go to our website, N as in Nancy, J as in Judy, M as in Mary, V as in Victor, P as in Peter, .net. N as in Nancy, E as in Ever, T as in Tom. And that stands for New Jersey Muslim Voice for Progress. Okay? I missed everything early on, but that's okay, because by the grace of Allah, for the next session, inshallah, I will be able to participate and be an assistance to all the sisters and a support for all my sisters. So I don't have a lot to say personally on it, because I've been doing this a long time. So I'm going to read the web line again. Yes, sir, Ayaz?
Can you talk about the youth? You're working with the youth. Can you briefly talk about that, please?
Yes, sir. Okay, so we all know that even though we're at this juncture of trying to make things happen in politics, learning politics 101, we need to also bring about an education and awareness to our youth. How would we do that? So we have to bring our children in the masjid if possible, because everything is so busy. We allow our children to do so many things. But if we create activities within the masjid to bring our children in the masjid, and we provide them with brochures, we provide them with various movies, educational materials, whatever is feasible, websites for our children, we educate them in that manner and make them an active part of the masjid. We can bring about an education and awareness to them. When we have events as such in a personal manner where we're one-on-one, if we didn't have this pandemic, we bring our children out to participate as well. So those are little things. So now, being that we have the pandemic, I had a rough time today trying to get on. The perfect example would have been to get my son and get him to assist me in this particular troubleshooting endeavor that I was trying to do all by myself today. That would have been perfect, as well as have him sit in and listen to what's going on, because our children, they are very innovative and they can give us a lot of information by just listening to the subject matters that we discuss. So we want to get the children, our youth, involved in what we're doing as well. They can get involved by doing census as well with us when we go out, should we go out for outreach. They can mail things out for you.
there's plenty of things that our youth can do with us and for us, and by us, of course. So, you know, we need to really get them involved. We need to create things that would be incentives for them, such as create programs and a child that, like right now we have the census. So anyone that was able to bring about a program to bring about education and awareness for census, getting it out there on websites, because they're so creative, they can do something like that. So at the end of that program, they get an award for the person that did the best advertisement via website or via drawing. It could have been a poster. So it's just those little things that we can possibly do to get our youth involved. I don't see any questions popped up. Does anyone have any questions at all?
Sameera, this is Brother Jimmy. I want to just continue with about the youth. Some of the things that your youth can do all the way down to elementary school. You can have, if there is a city council, that's the first leg of being a politician. They can be a part of that. School councils in high school, just help run the student organization at the college level, and then all bets are off. They can think about running as a district leader. What can people do this year in this upcoming election? Well, we mentioned a lot of things, and I want to thank the sisters from South Jersey who seem to be very, very much on point. And I think they're going to be some great leaders and are great leaders right now. But we need to take that same energy and promote it towards our younger folks. But it needs to be channeled in such a way where, as I often see now, people are running for high offices like state assembly, state senator, U.S. Congress, and they're going under the premise that I have experience. Yes, you may have life experience, but you don't have leadership experience yet. The one way to get that leadership experience is to work your way up in politics. For me, I started out as a class parent at Sister Clara Muhammad School in Newark. I then moved on to become PTA president of the Islamic School in New Jersey. And then when as my children progressed through school, I was always, they used to always tell me, well, Dad, you're always on something. Well, it was my job to be involved. And just like anyone else's job, get yourselves involved. But before I figured I'd be remiss, and I have to live here in Essex County, I want to just give a shout out to those members of the Muslim League of Voters that are on this call. And hopefully some of you brothers and sisters may have a question that you may want to ask too. Everyone, please don't be afraid to ask a question. As was stated earlier, I taught for 30 years, and there was a saying that we teachers had: the only dumb question is the one that's not asked.
That's right. That's right. And Brother Jimmy, thank you so much for bringing that to my attention, because that really did slip my head. I actually started out in elementary school being the class representative. And then when I went to junior high school, I got involved in a lot of things in junior high. But when I got to high school, I was in just about every organization, the executive board. I was the secretary on this, that, and the other. Not to talk about what I did, but you are so correct. That's exactly where it starts, volunteering in your school. And that is what actually gives you that need and that want to build up your leadership skills once you get out of high school. And then, you know, going into college, they have a governing board as well. So it could start as early as elementary school, being the class representative, going into junior school, trying to get involved on the governing board there, and into high school. So that was really excellent. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
This is Muqaddas. I also want to add that when I got involved in local politics in Camden County, I also started as a vice president of student government. And yeah, school is the way to start.
Yes, my brother Abdul Mani has a question. Abdul Mani, please unmute yourself.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, sir.
Congratulations to all of the people in South Jersey. Ayaz, congratulations for having such a great program here today. But I wanted to remind my brother Jimmy, that when we came up in East Orange, I asked him to say it, but he wanted me to say it, I think. When we came up in East Orange, there were city jobs in the summer. Like we're going into summer now, there were city jobs. And in East Orange, we were up under council people. We were up under directors that ran the water company, that ran the schools. We were up under the mayor. I remember my brother Jimmy walking around with the guy that did the mail in East Orange City Hall. We were up under the recreation directors for the city, and we started at about 12 years old, and you can get involved. And thank you, brother Ayaz, for that, because at 12 you can volunteer, but they hired us at age 14. So we started getting a little check. But the bottom line is we got a lot, or we were really, really mentored in East Orange. So that's how it starts. Don't wait. Don't wait. If you get your children involved and know these politicians, and they'll show you the way. And that's where Jimmy went. That's what happened with him. And me, as being a director of athletics for 10 years in the city of East Orange, that was easy because of what the elders in the city had allowed us to do. Thank you.
I have a question, brother.
Yes.
This is Simon Buta. I have a question. So I am personally quite involved in civic activities in my area, but I feel that compared to boys versus girls, girls are easier to, they are more interested in doing such activities, but boys that age group, 11, 12-year-old, they need some kind of incentive, I personally feel, because when I ask my kid, okay, come with me, I'm doing a rally and I'll have a table there and I have census material that come and help me. So what is there for me, Mom? So for boys, what would you suggest that we should, how would we guide them? Because they're young, immature at this point. They don't understand what the longer run is going to do for us as Muslims or as the community members here. But what would you suggest that, what would we gear them towards, how to lure them, I would say?
I think you can surround the boys with some sort of sporting event. Find out what they like to do. Boys like to do things. If you can say, well, if you can, let's say, if you can pass these flyers out for me, I'll allow you to do this. Let's say you're gonna have a basketball game, but that's how you attract them. If they're interested in soccer, let them be able to come there to play soccer. And any activity where it can be hands-on is how you can get boys involved. I agree with you. In all the years I've been involved in politics, you get more girls and women, because in this upcoming election, we have to have board workers, people that, those are the people that work at the polls. I think out of, what do I have, 18 people, 2 are men. So it's not just the girls, it's women as well.
Brother Jimmy, and a question to everyone. Are there any paying jobs? That will be a good attraction.
There is one in Camden County right now. The Board of Elections in Camden County has just issued some job openings for the youth, especially, that they can also apply for, and that will be helpful within the South Jersey area for the youth to start from there. I think
yes, I agree. I agree because my son he has got a job already to the census. He's applied and he got a call. They had stopped for 3 months because of the COVID-19 crisis, but they are back again, and they have called him just recently to come and get the fingerprinting done. So
census is a good start in Board of Elections, because at the Board of Elections, you want to work there with the people who are the key people, just like Brother Jimmy Small mentioned, of your county. And I work at right now, the Camden County Democratic Party has given me a responsibility to do outreach for the Muslim community in Camden County. And we are doing phone banking right now. So I am looking for people who are in South Jersey. I know a lot of volunteers like Annie, Maheen, we have Iram Khan, Mona Aslam. They are all helping right now with the phone bank. And the youth can start to participate. We will give them the volunteer certification. At the same time, because I have worked for county for more than 10 years, I get to know all the job openings. So just like all the Muslims who are part of other counties within New Jersey, I think it's good that we form a close-knit coalition so that we can share those resources for the youth, so they can get a platform. So I think it's important to share, to create some sort of a platform where we can share the resources for each county.
They usually give the council, men and women, they usually give them a certain amount of um, jobs that they can give to the youth in each city. At least that's the way they did it up north here.
Can we ask Sajwa and Sana to weigh in? Sajwa and Sana, please weigh in to answer the question.
So also someone asked a question, how can I involve my 12-year-old to get involved in civic responsibilities? As I previously said, we have to create fun ways to teach our kids about civic engagement. For example, watch movies and documentaries about history and government, volunteer together as a family to instill community service values, and encourage them to join the student government or debate team at school, and also bring them to the political events and or rallies, as I mentioned before. Also, a really important part as Muslims, bringing our youth into the masjids, doing volunteer services in the masjids, such as helping clean up, if they need secretarial work, clerical work, various jobs like that. Hosting events, assisting in hosting events. Those are some little things that can build leadership skills for our children, especially 12 and up.
Thank you, sister. I appreciate that.
I do want to add that council meetings and Board of Education meetings are public. So if you want to either bring your kids or come yourself and just be involved in that way, that's a great way to start, is attending the meetings and, you know, voicing your opinions and voicing your concerns is a great way to start.
I agree.
I have a question for Sister Sajwa. This is Sister Saima. Can you please share how we could get the youth involved, different examples, how we can get them involved in civic responsibilities?
I think the key is to have a lot of people their age there. I think a lot of the times, like we find that we don't really want to go to the masjid, or we don't want to go to certain activities because we find just a bunch of older people and we can't really relate to them, and usually they're kind of just lecturing at you. So I feel as though if you're trying to do any type of event or any type of service opportunity or anything of that nature, that you kind of have younger mentors there. So I'd say at least people between like 20 to 27, around that age range. And I feel like when you have those younger people leading by example, they become mentors to the younger children, and we automatically want to be like them. We automatically are going to start modeling them. So if you want to bring in high schoolers and even younger ages into the masjid and into certain community events and things of that nature, I would start by getting a lot of young people there. As they said before, on this call, we have a lot of older people. Majority, I'd say 30 and up, moms with kids and things of that nature. As a young kid, you can't really relate to that as much. So it's kind of like, oh, there's going to be a bunch of older people there. We don't want to be there. That's boring. So I kind of feel like if you bring more younger people there to lead it, like in the 20s, then I think that'll help.
And sister, you're correct. Because of all of the years that Brother Jimmy and myself have been involved in athletics, all we have been involved with are young people. Because I started coaching Pop Warner at age 7 years old. They followed our lead. But we need you. We need you guys to run everything now. We really do. We can sit back and advise and do stuff like this and be there to help, but you guys need to run it. May Allah, guide you and I mean, may Allah guide you in what you're doing, and everything you just said is correct. But the older people want to stay around in the way, but we are just there to advise you. We don't want to be in the way. We want you guys to go forward.
We want to be the shoulders for you guys to stand on, and pave the way for you guys, because that's how it works.
Or as I always like to say, there's a couple of young imams here in the Newark area. I always tell them, you guys need to kick us to the curb and take this over. It's your time, not ours. And I think they will.
All right, thank you. So Sister Sameera, last minute comments, and let's close up. Thank you all. Go ahead, Sister Sameera.
So I believe in closure. If there are no more questions, I'd like to thank Allah much for all the participants. Sisters, love you much. I thank Allah much for you for being the examples for us. Brothers, we thank Allah much for you as well, but gotta pat the sisters on the back. I look forward to having more conversations and sessions with everyone in an effort to improve our education and awareness in politics, Muslim events that can help us grow and progress on a collaborative effort. I thank Allah much, basically, all in all, for the opportunity, for everything that has occurred today, and pray that it can occur another day. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
And let us all thank Brother Ayaz and the NJ MVP for setting this up and setting other events up, and may we continue. May Allah continue to give Brother Ayaz good health, strength, that we may, and the NJ MVP, that we keep moving forward.
Amen.
I'd just like to say one last thing. I know we're about to close out. I did hear one of those fantastic sisters from South Jersey state that we need to form a coalition, and we do. We need to make sure that whatever you might be doing, I heard Cherry Hill mention a lot, whatever you may be doing that's good in Cherry Hill, may be good for me here in East Orange, it may be good in Atlantic City, it may be good way up in Sussex County. But we have to form this coalition and find those things to work together on that we can agree upon. And we just leave the fitna at the door.
Amen.
Jazakallah.
Are we done?
I think we're done.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.